Apologies to everybody that's here. Welcome to a work session of City Council of Trinidad, Monday, October 13th, 2025 at 3:07 p.m. in the City Council chambers, 135 North Animas. Following items are in consideration. General Fund for 2026 review.
And if I could please, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, obviously we don't have a quorum of City Council this afternoon, but this is not a formal meeting, so no action, of course, is going to be taken. What this constitutes, I think, essentially is a meeting of council that we've duly noticed, and there are 3 of you, so that would absolutely be required, not only 2, but we've met all legal requirements for purposes of this meeting. It's unfortunate there aren't more, since decisions will be made on this in the future, but this is sufficient for work session information purposes.
I do know that several council members that aren't here have expressed they're going to review the online footage, as well as I'm sure may contact Tara. So
cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, so you will find a memo at your seats. Staff has been copied on that memo as well. It looks like we're pretty much a congregation of staff. So the intent of this meeting is to go through the general fund and go through the memo. So I'm going to do quite a bit of talking, but I will pause with the sections to ask you if you have questions, and we do have staff here. If something is particularly relevant to their department, they can come forward. If you would like to ask them specific questions, and the memo doesn't cover that. The 2026 draft budget was delivered to City Council last Tuesday on October 7th. I want to point out for you that this is a living document, so it's already changed. I also want to introduce our finance manager, Sarah Cart, who's sitting there with the laptop, and we'll be able to refer to her if we have any questions, as she's got the magic spreadsheet with all the notes in it. So we'll be modifying this draft continually. It is posted downstairs at City Hall and across the way at the library, and we'll be updating that between now, last Tuesday, and November 14th. That is the Friday that we will deliver the updated draft to you for first reading on the 18th, okay? On Tuesday, when we delivered the draft budget, you also approved at that meeting the insurance renewal for CEBT. And you may remember from the presentation that staff recommended we drop PPO 6, that instead the 3 options we give employees were PPO 7, 8, and 9. So I want to remind you that those options that we renewed actually lowered the insurance cost for both the city and for the employees. So as we go through this memo, we've already updated the spreadsheet, and on that update, it changed the expenses for the general fund to be currently the draft that the public is viewing, or that you might be viewing, shows a negative balance of $99,656. Actually, we've already updated that with the insurance information, and it is showing a negative balance of $32,113 right now. So that change alone was as a result of the insurance. So let's go through revenue. Once again, as we go through these different taxes and revenue, fees and fines and permits, don't hesitate to ask questions. Do you have any questions so far about the change of the balance? Everybody's clear on that? Okay, property taxes have been increased in the state of Colorado based on House Bill 24-1001. This was done in the Colorado Assembly in 2024. Those property taxes are going to increase all the local governments by 6.8%. So that was done in the spring of 2024. The governor called a special session in the fall of 2024, and the Assembly passed additional legislation giving jurisdictions tax relief. It was to give homeowners and business owners tax relief in 24 and 25. That tax relief expires. Unless something happens between now and December 31st, those tax reliefs expire. Property taxes will be going up based on that House bill in 2024 by 6.8%. So property tax in 2025 with the relief was $1,263,750. It will be going up this year to $1,516,500, $1,516,500, so we will see an increase in property tax. Okay? Sales and use tax were budgeted in 2025 to be 7.2 million, and based on an approximate 8 months, so through August, Ms. Cart and I did the revenue projections, and we're anticipating that we would finish at 6.85 million, which is a 5% decrease, so we are expecting to see sales tax decrease. Now, we're watching the trend. We do have some hope that third quarter, particularly the month of September with the Rad Fest, with the festivals that we had, and with general visitation, that we will see sales tax go up. So we'll be updating this number of where we anticipate finishing. But let's say that number stayed at 6.85 million. At this time, we're estimating 2026 sales and use tax to be 7,400,000. So that assumes no increase on existing businesses, flat on existing businesses, and a $550,000 increase based on the new businesses that will open. Particularly, we may see increased taxes from our convenience stores that have opened, plus the others that are coming online. So we'll know a little bit more by the time you see the updated budget on whether those numbers change. Marijuana 5% sales tax was budgeted at $1 million this year and is expected to come in around $900,000. Once again, third quarter sales tax will tell us where we might adjust that number. At this time, we've got it budgeted at $825,000 for 2026. So total tax revenue proposed is $10,651,500, which is a 3% increase over last year. So tax revenue is where we're hoping and anticipating growing. Any questions on tax revenues? There are some additional smaller taxes, cigarette tax. Others? Okay, we'll move on.
I did have one. There's,
Sure.
and this may be covered in here. I haven't read this as closely as I'd like, but under miscellaneous revenues,
Yes.
we're going from a projected 565,000 basically to 1.3 million in 26. What is the difference there?
And is that miscellaneous revenue or
Yeah,
tax revenue?
Miscellaneous revenues.
Okay, let's get down into miscellaneous revenues, and then I will ask Sarah to look that up.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the next revenue streams are fees and non-tax revenues. So we've covered publicly that two basic sources feed the general fund. There's taxes and there's non-taxable revenues. So let's start with licenses and permits. That includes business licenses, contractors, liquor, marijuana, and building permits. Based on current projections, we're proposing $184,200, which is a slight decrease of about 1% over 2025. For those. Now, those happen depending on what development opportunities, what building permits, what renewals come up, so we could certainly see that go the other direction. Intergovernmental revenues include highway user tax funds, severance taxes, revenues for pilot, that's payment in lieu of taxes from the Housing Authority, and federal and state grants. The revenue projections for the HUTF are up 18%. From $311,475 to $380,500. We're projecting severance taxes flat, however, we'll have those direct distributions from Department of Local Affairs later this month, and we do anticipate that may drop a bit, so we'll see that updated in the next version of the budget. Additionally, we'll be adjusting pilot projections for the Housing Authority and the enterprise funds over the next week, so we'll have more information on that later. We did want to list the grant revenues that we're anticipating, and that I believe Councilmember Ogletree may be the difference, is it's in the state and federal grant revenue from one to the other. Federal grants are $779,554. They include a possibility of another $500,000 EPA brownfields grant. It includes $222,000, which is what we projected based on the current CDOT grants we have for high visibility enforcement and click it or ticket. Now, if we don't get those grants and we don't end up having the associated labor that goes with those grants. So when we do get those grants, it does go into the overtime of those officers that work those programs. Additionally, we have a $57,554 balance in the police department's co-responder program, which we're going to have those that are involved in our co-responder program present in November at a work session, because we'll be proposing to continue the program, okay? And we're working with, on another grant for that now. State grants include $100,000 from DOLA's Energy Impact Assistance Fund for comprehensive plan update. We've already secured $50,000 from DOLA capacity grant for the comp plan. We've also got $79,252 left in our current DOLA capacity grant, which pays for my rural planner, that's Michael Yerman, and some of our city staff capacity. We'll be going for at least $75,000, that's what I've plugged in right now, for a safer grant for the fire department. We'll talk a little bit more when we get to the expense side. Same thing with a $200,000 police capacity grant from Department of Justice. We'll be seeking both of those grants to expand the capacity in fire and police departments in '26. Charges for services include development fees, anti-dilapidation fees, building plan review fees, dispatch communication service fees, wildland suppression fees, incident recovery fees, fire inspection fees, CPR certification fees, landfill disposal fees, community center rental fees, swimming pool fees, and concession fees, athletic field and rental fees, municipal court fees, Space to Create rental fees, Fox Theater rental fees, Carnegie Library fees, and Trinidad Animal Shelter fees. So you can see that every department in the general fund is contributing to the revenue side here. Collectively, these are expected to bring in $2,569,400, which is a 29% increase over 2025, which was budgeted at just over $1.8 million. Total fees and non-tax revenue proposed equal $4,626,906, which is a 37% increase, and we can certainly look at miscellaneous revenue, but I feel certain that's the federal and state tax revenue.
Karen, if you don't mind, the 29% increase,
Yep,
I don't know a good way to ask this question.
sure.
Is that new dollars overall, or is
It
that a
is.
reallocation of dollars from another location?
It's new grant dollars overall.
Okay.
So it would include the police capacity through the Department of Justice, safer for the fire department, the DOLA EIAF grant right there, there's $375,000 in new grant dollars. The $500,000 in EPA brownfields on the federal side is new dollars. The $222,000 would be new dollars. The only existing funding that's in that list is the remaining funds in the co-responder grant and the remaining funds in the DOLA capacity grant.
Can you, not an in-depth explanation, but can
Sure.
you just give a brief explanation as to how those dollars are secured, what the process is for that?
Sure. So generally, there's an application period. We apply, we go through review on the agency side, we receive an award letter, we go under contract. The thing about these particular grants is you're seeing them budgeted on the revenue side, you're gonna see their opposite budgeted on the expense side. So hypothetically, if we don't apply for the Brownfields grant at $500,000, we simply won't have the Brownfields line item for expense of $500,000. So one cancels out the other.
But it's still a good example of
It is.
high due diligence on the part of staff to obtain these dollars to expend for benefit in the city.
Right.
I mean,
So these are programs that we know of now that we want to apply for. Let's say an opportunity opens in February, it's not gonna preclude us from chasing that opportunity just because it's not listed in this particular budget. We would still chase that opportunity, and we would love to be able to come to you for a supplemental appropriation budget amendment because we secured enough funding to do 5 or 6 additional things. Does that answer that question?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for the sourcing those.
Sure. So the last revenue is pilot payment in lieu of taxes. We charge these to the enterprise funds. We also charge service reimbursements, and we have a small administrative fee to the tourism fund, and we're gonna actually review these in an upcoming work session when we go over enterprise funds and then tourism fund. But for now, as it exists in the draft budget, that's $1,584,813. bringing the total revenues to $16,863,219 as proposed in the draft budget. Any more questions on revenue? Any questions for staff beyond me on revenue? No? Okay.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Let's go to the expense side. So there's a lot of information here. I'm gonna run through it really quickly. This is every different department in the city general fund. First is city council, so I hate to tell you, we're not giving you a raise. Your budget is remaining flat.
Sorry.
We did include additional training, travel, and mileage.
You rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, that's right. With 4 new elected officials, we thought training opportunities might need to be prioritized, so we increased that budget a bit. Mr. Downs' department is next. It includes 1 employee, that would be Mr. Downs. The budget's primarily
No
flat.
jokes, no jokes.
The budget's primarily flat, with an exception. We did add some funding for outside legal services. Examples of what that might be is attorneys with specialization in labor, development, and land use. It would give Mr. Downs an opportunity to tap into some other knowledge if needed as we go forward in the next year. Obviously, if we don't need it, we won't use it, but we haven't had it in the budget in the past couple of years. We've managed to stick any outside services in other places. So we're putting this in for this year. Municipal court, this includes 1 full-time employee that serves as a court clerk and the municipal judge. This budget actually represents a decrease over 2025, but we did include a little extra funding for training. City manager, this includes 4 employees from the city manager, clerk's office, and human resources. It also includes salary for a part-time safety officer. The budget also includes the cost of the 2026 general election, because should the city need to put the CIP, if our capital improvement budget ballot measure fails this year, we will need to put it back on the ballot next year. And then we increased a little bit of cost for training, so we're trying to anticipate any cost there, okay?
If
Sure.
there's employees referenced, would it indicate if they're a hired position or not hired?
I do, I indicate new positions as we go through. So far as we've gone through these, they're all existing positions
And staffed.
and staffed, yep. IT, this budget includes 2 full-time employees. We've increased the outside contract services line item. We're gonna do a service this next year for maintenance at all city locations on our security systems. Public security in all of our city buildings is a priority next year for our operations side. You'll see that the telephone line item in the budget includes our multi-location Mitel system, as well as the telecom for all public safety. I wanted to point that out because it's a rather high number. Finance, this budget includes 4 full-time employees. We've increased the dues and subscription line item and the training line item to accommodate expanding learning. This department, we've pretty much reimagined this department. We have several new employees. Of the 4, 2 are new, and we've expanded the positions of others, and we're anticipating some, at some point, whether it's next year or the next year, retirements. So we want to start putting some money into training in the finance department. Okay, 5% marijuana tax projects. There's no employees in this department. We have 3 line items. We have small amounts for safety equipment, which is managed by our safety official. Demolition, which is managed by our development services. And then we have an annual transfer out to our economic development fund, and that is governed by an ordinance that was passed in 2015. We'll be proposing a 4th line item by the first reading, which will include our police co-responder program to be paid for out of the marijuana funding, and we're working to finalize those potential costs when they're here in November for work session. I believe it's on the 10th. We'll be talking about bringing an MOU to you for that program. Any questions there?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay, development services, there's 3 full-time employees, of which 1 is supported partially by grant funding from DOLA and TURA. This budget includes 3 line items that are supported by grants, as I pointed out on the other revenue side. The $300,000 line item for comprehensive planning would be supported by $150,000 in grant funding. Okay, so that's a 50-50 project. The Brownfields line item of $500,000 would be supported by 100% in grant funding. And additionally, the outside contract service line item of $65,000 is supported by $22,642 in grant funding. We've also increased the travel, training, and mileage for this department. This is also a department that's taking on the project that was presented to you a few weeks ago, the building improvement plan. So they'll be implementing that. We'll be talking about that plan more on the capital side. Miscellaneous, there's no employees in this department. I wanted to point out that we're increasing payroll services so that we can implement Dayforce, which is going to be an expansion of our current system. It's going to include a mandatory clock-in by each city employee. That's everyone, even me, will be clocking in every day and clocking out. We want to note a decrease in SURSA property and liability insurance that Ms. Garrett presented a few weeks ago for 2026. We definitely want to point out any decreases that we have in our budget.
Tara,
Sure.
how was time clock handled before then? Just paper?
So, it's handled by paper, filling out your time card.
All right.
It is signed off by supervisors, and it does come in, but we are interested in moving to a digital footprint on that.
Is there a way to do it digitally out off property?
It would be geo-tracked, so you couldn't log in from home.
Okay.
You'd be signing in from your home-based facility, and we are looking at setup costs, so we'll be bringing that to you. We'll be talking about it in depth, but we want to include the maintenance of that and continuation of that in our budget. Agency support, this includes the same agency support that was proposed last year. It includes advocates for domestic violence, detox facilities, senior citizen center, as well as some smaller agency and fees, and also the arts-based partnership for Space to Create.
What is our agency support for arts space?
$30,000 a year. If you look at last year, it looks like it doubled. It's because we were paying for the previous year and last year together. I think it comes in around $29,000 and some change. Facility services, there's no employees in facility services. This is a location for all the building repair and maintenance, the utilities, the janitorial services for all general fund departments. Based on current usage, we're actually going to recommend a 12% savings in that department. And this includes all the total general fund expenses of $4,538,091. That shows from the draft budget that's posted to the public, this number is actually $76,156 less than the current draft budget posted. And that's the savings that I discussed earlier on the insurance. We'll be doing open enrollment from October 27th to November 4th, so you're going to see a second adjustment in insurance cost based on what people actually sign up for. Okay, that's any questions on total government expenses before I move to public safety?
That's a really narrow window.
It is.
Is that
Pretty
the way
normal.
it always works?
It is. It was, I can verify it's also that way at the state. It's a pretty narrow window. Okay, to prepare you for talking about the public safety section, I want to point out that I worked with the Colorado State Demographer Office to produce a report based on 2024 demographics. And in that report, it states that the household median income for Trinidad is $50,792 per year, which is $24.42 per hour. I also want to point out that of our 173 employees, 23 are part-time, 150 are full-time, and of those, 81 city employees fall below the average household median income for Trinidad. Of those 81 employees that fall below the household median income, 13 of them are working in the area of public safety as either firefighters or dispatchers. So that's going to be relevant to our discussion. Okay. Police. This includes 23 full-time sworn officers, 1 part-time officer, and 6 civilian employees. It also includes, and Mayor Pro Tem Williamson, this is where I know, it includes a half year for 2 additional sworn positions that have been frozen for 2 years. So those 2 positions are not filled. We've budgeted for the back half of 2026, and we'll be pursuing grant funding to offset those salaries for 2 to 3 years. The budget includes an increase in training, SWAT supplies, and insurance for our 2 canine officers. This is something we've never provided for before. And we've actually exceeded the cost of the insurance every year in their care. So we want to start an insurance program for our 2 canine officers, and that will cover the expenses that we've been spending. We do have to travel north to specific doctors for our 2 canine officers. Beyond the implementation of step pay, and for those of you that have been on council for a while, I don't know, Councilmember Trujillo, if you were on council when they implemented the police step program 3 years ago. Okay, based on the step pay for 2026 and other benefits, the department budget was actually came down this year, $18,451. We still put all the steps in. We put the stipend in that we've talked about. We were able to reduce costs in several different areas. All sworn officers are paid above the household median income as defined by the state demographer's office. So any questions about police, we have the chief here to answer those if you need them. Okay, it would surprise me we haven't covered insurance on our K-9 officers. They brought that forward.
Yeah.
Chief Tahanovich brought that forward as a recommendation, and we're happy to include it.
Good call.
Okay? Dispatch, this includes 9 full-time employees, of which 2 positions are currently vacant. We're currently running dispatch with 7 full-time dispatchers and running overtime as a result, so our priority is to fill those. This is our priority for recruitment in the coming months and next year. So as such, I'm implementing a 1 quarter of a STEP program, which is designed to increase our ability to fill and hold these positions. Of the household median income, I want to point out that 7 of the 9 are below household median income in this particular department. So this increase that I'm recommending to do a quarter of a step is a $55,078 increase in departmental salaries and a $43,882 increase in outside contract services, which will be used for recruiting, hiring, and training. This total department will increase by $98,960. So this is not a budget neutral reorganization. It's a recommendation that this is what I think we need to make this department successful, as we've seen that success mirrored in our police department.
But
This step,
that
Yeah.
that addition is reflective of the current
It
proposed
is.
budget.
it is
Okay.
the budget that will be balanced by the 18th, but which is 32,000 down at this point. It's
Right,
all
okay.
it's all in here. This step pay program will move the positions in dispatch to at or above household median income, but it will take 4 years to do that. This only represents a quarter step for each position. Okay? Any questions about dispatch? Any questions for Chief Tahanovich while we have him here about the difficulty of filling these positions?
So
No? Okay. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's really a question that can be answered, but in my professional life, I know the difference of looking at a budget on paper and living within a budget operationally.
Sure.
Obviously, that's a big difference. I'm wondering, and I don't know, really, I don't know how beneficial it is to have that discussion, but I was wondering, you know, what the department head's position is, how much effort, what anticipated problems is this constrained budget going to be?
We'll answer
you know,
that
dealing
question.
with? I mean, so, I don't know if that's something that we want to address.
Sure, I think each department head might approach it differently to answer that question. I can't speak for them. As city manager, I can speak for myself. This is a very lean budget.
Right.
It's pretty constrained, and as we go through, we may have budget amendments every quarter this year, and we'll be reflecting back on this is what we think we need right now or what we can afford right now. Certainly, the desire is to see sales tax grow.
Mhm.
I will say that one of the things we concentrated on in developing the budget is monetizing all the different revenue streams that were possible in the general fund so that we can see increases.
Right.
And because we're addressing household median income in public safety, it doesn't mean we haven't yet addressed it in other areas
Mm.
of the city, and that will need to be addressed as well.
Okay.
Okay, did you wanna speak, or are you good with that answer?
No, I mean, I
Okay.
think, yeah, I think I mean, it's just something that should be noted, and I know that it's very appreciated. I think the term is overused when you discuss budget, but the belt tightening that's taken effect is definitely appreciated and needed. Hopefully we can see a turn in revenues and, in the future, relaxing that belt.
And with the new police chief coming on board and working with interim chief Tahanovich, I assume we're gonna have some more recommendations about the department.
So, just a quick question, are we gonna be looking at additional revenue streams next year?
We'd love to,
Okay, so just,
yeah,
that's on the table.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, animal shelter. This is a tough one. This includes 7 full-time employees and 8 part-time employees. The animal shelter operations were absorbed by the city in 2024 with an initial budget of $500,000. This grew in 2025 to be $573,074, and for 2026, the operations are budgeted at $750,217, which is the result of expanded staffing. Beyond staff, the operational costs have only increased $10,700 in animal supplies, which are increasing as a result of current economy. This is a 7-day-a-week operation. I'm not sure we've known what this was gonna cost, and we're just now starting to understand what running the animal shelter costs.
I know every time this comes up, we talk about approaching the county and seeking contribution from them. And
Sure.
then the response that we always get is that we don't have room for any more animals from the county. Is that still true?
That is
or-
more than true, yes.
But I mean, at this point,
We don't have capacity, so to stay licensed with PACFA, which is the regulatory agency over running the shelter, we're limited to the amount of animals we can take per
no, I
the amount of
understand
employees
that. I
we
was gonna
have.
ask,
Sure,
almost certainly, we're already accepting animals from the county, though.
we are.
I mean,
If you come, we're not accepting them from county officers. If someone with a county residence tries to drop off an animal, we will decline, but the animal gets thrown over the fence or
yeah.
it gets abandoned in town, is what I'm told by staff.
Hmm.
Do we have any nonprofits working with them for?
We don't, and
community
that's a
funds?
priority for this next year, and talking with former board members of Noah's Ark, I understand they brought in about $200,000 a year in fundraising and donations, so that could certainly be an area we explore and will be in 2026.
I think it would really be important to specify exactly how that money is gonna be used in the shelter in order for people, because we have PALS, and PALS has a specific focus, basically of, neutering and spaying and other health issues, but not taking them in or anything like that. I don't know if they transport around the state or anything to that effect, but in any event, I think there is room for, and a lot of care about animals in this community, and probably room for another nonprofit to come along, but it would have to be very clear what the point of that or agency was and how it
Sure.
would help the shelter.
Those are good suggestions. Okay, any other questions? Okay, fire. There are 17 full-time employees in the department, and we've got funding for a half year for 2 additional firefighters. We'll be seeking funding through a SAFER grant offered through the state of Colorado. We've identified that, and we'll be meeting on it by the end of this month. It will offset salaries for the first 2 to 3 years. This budget includes an increase in firefighting supplies and training. The additional training does include emergency management and emergency preparedness, which are areas of municipal priority and responsibility. I'm implementing a quarter of a STEP program, which is designed to increase our ability to hold these positions on the long term. This is a $78,735 increase in department salaries, which is offset by the department's $50,000 reduction in overtime funding. So I want to point out that this department has actively pursued holding back overtime so that they can pay for this STEP program to be implemented. And they've done that. So this reduction allows us to implement this STEP pay program for a departmental increase of only $28,735. For 2026, this STEP pay program will move positions in the fire department to at or above household median income. It will take 4 years to do that, and this year represents a quarter of each step. I'll point out that there are 6 firefighters of the 17 that are below household median income right now. So we're asking people to run into some of the most dangerous situations, and we're not paying them household median income. So this is absolutely necessary to do, and I want to once again say the department has prioritized this and paid for it, a good chunk of it themselves this year.
Has any revenue stream developed from the ordinance that we passed allowing
It
us
has.
to charge?
And the chief will be doing an update for you in November at the meeting about the 4 revenue streams that the fire department is contributing to the general fund. So we've got him on the calendar to do that in November. Do you have any questions for him at this time? No? Okay. This total public safety expenses of $7,468,804, it shows once again a $32,788 savings from the draft budget we delivered last week based on insurance reductions. Okay, engineering, there are 4 full-time positions in this department. There's no planned increases in the budget for 2026. Fleet maintenance, there are 4 full-time employees in this department. Increases in the 2026 budget include several critical tools, a hot seat for $10,000 and a tire machine for $20,000. Those are included in that. There are 15 full-time public works. There are 15 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee and 14 seasonal temporary employees in this department. Additional costs this year include the horticulture program, which is moving into, it's always been in public works, but we're moving the $30,000 cost for the flowers. They're coming out of tourism and going into the general fund, into this budget. We've also increased construction supplies, which were over this year. We're using them to board up vacant and abandoned properties, and we're anticipating that's going to continue. Significant focus will be done in 2026 on holding overtime in this department, which has been driven by additional duties related to the management of our public space. You can see, if you're viewing the budget, that our overtime expenses in this department are really almost doubled from what we budgeted. So that'll be a focus of next year, is trying to reduce that. But I will say, in defense of those overtime expenses, you may remember in June or July, it was July, I delivered to you a report that 35% of the time spent for 7 people in this department was being diverted to clean up homeless camps and clean up public space. And a lot of that is happening when we get called in on the weekend. So with that, we're doubling up on overtime. So we don't have we are working on a solution to that. We have started working on that. And we may need to increase expenses in this department next year. But we're bringing it forward as it is right now.
Tara, I do know,
Sure.
I know this has been done, I don't know any of the details at all, but I know on several projects, the county has used work release from the jail, or I'm sorry, the prison. I don't know if that's a possibility for any of that, and if so, if there would be savings at all, but I just thought it might be something
Okay.
to look at potentially.
I'll visit with Public Safety and Public Works, and we'll look at whether that's ever been done. Thank you for that suggestion. Landfill, there are 4 full-time employees in this department. Increases in the 2026 budget include a new torch and grease gun, as well as an above-ground fuel tank with fencing for approximately $28,000. So Public Works expenses of $2,923,318 show a $21,770 savings from the draft budget. Do you have any questions for Public Works? We have Mr. Just here if you do. Cool. Okay. Parks and Recreation, there are 6 full-time employees and 20 seasonal temporary employees. In this department, this includes both the community center staff and the Office of Outdoor Recreation. There are some increases in training, travel, mileage, as well as community center operations. So minimal increases in the overall budget, but we did move the Office of Outdoor Recreation out of the tourism fund and into the general fund, and that's represented in this department. Okay, any questions there?
No.
Okay, Carnegie Public Library. There are 3 full-time positions and 5 part-time positions in this department. There are no planned increases, but the 2026 budget has rebalanced some expenses to expand programs and provide some additional training to staff. Most of these employees operate as one of our employees below the household median income, and will be something we're looking at next year. Any questions for the library?
I don't know if it's pertinent to this, but the booking bill,
The bookmobile will be in capital improvement.
that goes into that,
Mhm.
CIP, okay.
It will result in creating an asset, so it'll go into capital improvement.
Thank you.
And we have it there, no worries. Okay, the Welcome Center, there's 1 full-time employee and funding for 1 part-time employee in this department. That part-time employee will represent a new position. This department has been budgeted from tourism in recent years, and the 2026 budget represents its return to the general fund. The proposed budget for the entire department represents new expenses to the general fund of $134,830. We'll be recommending a transfer of $100,000 from tourism to general fund to cover a portion of these costs, and we'll be bringing forward that discussion at the future work session when we talk about the tourism fund. The 2026 proposed budget is $40,000 less than the 2025 budget, but does include increases in training and volunteer enhancements. So we're managing to bring it out of tourism, reduce the budget, and offer some additional training, volunteer enhancements, and add a part-time employee. We're doing that at 2 locations where we have only 1 employee assigned to that location, and we want to for security reasons. Well, and also the fact that that operation is a 7-day-a-week operation during the tourism center. So we have an employee now that's definitely working a lot of overtime to cover that.
Is the Welcome Center only down here as opposed to at Space to Create still, or are there still 2 offices?
There's just the office for this budget. This budget represents just the Colorado Welcome Center location on Nevada.
And we don't receive any state funding to us?
We do not, and we have met with the state on that. We are pursuing.
Oh.
We have asked a friend to the city to pursue some additional conversations for funding, but it doesn't look good. They're moving away from funding welcome centers.
Tara, I had a quick question.
Sure.
I feel like it probably should be obvious, but with the, basically the current difference for the overall general fund is about 30,000, right?
Right.
And this says we're going to discuss moving 100K.
We are.
So is that 30,000 off prior to moving the 100?
It's including moving the 100.
So it's making the assumption that we will.
It's making the assumption that you will.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify
it's
that.
presented, that's a great question. It's presented in the draft budget as if you will.
Okay.
Okay. Economic development, there's 2 full-time employees and funding for 1 part-time employee in this department. That includes both communications and Space to Create positions. An additional change in this budget is we'll be adding some arts and culture commission and Main Street organization funding, and we're working on those numbers now. So we'll be rebalancing some numbers in the general fund, and that'll be one we're looking at. We may end up taking art and culture to capital, we just have to have that discussion. Okay? And then fleet replacement, there's no employees in this department. This represents the remaining funds allocated to fire apparatus, including a Type 3 wildland and repair to our backup ladder truck. So the total funds in parks, recreation, cultural, tourism, and economic development, the total expenses are $1,965,119, which shows a $4,825 savings from the 2026 draft budget. delivered last week. It brings the total general fund expenses to $16,895,332. And right now, the general fund draft budget has been amended to have a shortfall of $32,113. I would say by November 18th, when we deliver the general fund budget for first reading, it will be in balance. We will have it in balance. We're still working on a couple of things that will be tweaked as we go. And I will continue to advise you every time when we meet at the next work session to talk about enterprise funds. I will have a brief update to the general fund balance to tell you when and where it comes into complete balance. We've got the upcoming schedule for continued discussion, and I would remind the public that there will be a public hearing on the draft budget held at the City Council regular meeting on October 21st at 6 p.m. The proposed schedule for review includes 3 work sessions and 2 regular meetings. This was the first of the work sessions. The next will be public hearing for input on October 21 at the regular meeting. Then on October 27th's work session, we'll discuss enterprise funds. On November 10th at the work session, we'll discuss capital improvement, economic development, lottery, and tourism. And then we'll be prepared on November 18th for a first reading of the budget. Remember that we can amend between first reading and final adoption, so final adoption is scheduled now for December 16th. This schedule, posting, and availability is in conformance with the City of Trinidad Home Rule Charter. Do you have any questions for us?
I have a couple general questions. When we were talking about the Welcome Center, I was remembering that we don't have a lobbyist working on our behalf any
We don't.
longer.
No.
Do you think that harms us in any way in terms of seeking grants from the state or funding from the state in any way? Or are we doing fine as far as you can tell without that assistance?
Right now, the state budget is so out of balance, I don't know what a lobbyist would be able to do for us in this next session, other than bring us news of what we're, news of woe, which CML is doing an excellent job at right now, so. I do think there is maybe space for a lobbyist in the future. I don't think we gain anything. And in this Welcome Center discussion, we certainly don't gain anything from that. They're moving to a grant-style program, which Mr. Crossan is well aware of and prepared to put that application in next year. And I don't know that we're going to be able to get operational funds from that, but we will come out with some form of what we're trying to do at the Welcome Center in requesting the Colorado Tourism Office give us funds for that. When we know what that looks like, what that program looks like, Mr. Crossan will come to a regular meeting and address you during policy and staff updates and tell you a little bit about the program.
I think what I've learned over the years is that they do a surprisingly powerful job of PR on our behalf.
They do.
You think it's just this kind of rinky-dink thing, but their volunteers are very dedicated and their
Amazing.
supervision and support is really good, and it's something that we're doing well, so.
It is, and we've added some money for volunteer enhancement, so we'll be doing the familiarization tour with volunteers this year, and Mr. Crossan will decide which part of the state we're gonna study, and we'll send volunteers out to study.
Great. The other question I had is that sometimes at the end of the year, we're surprised and we.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Is there any possibility of that?
Possibly this year, that'd be wonderful. This isn't reflected in the budget, and it's more in my head right now, but when I reference the Economic Development Fund, there was an ordinance in 2015 that should have set aside funds for Economic Development Fund for fleet replacement and for IT replacement. So we've got to look at fleet replacement funds on the long term in IT. So should we come back in the first quarter of next year with extra funding, I'm probably going to recommend we use that extra funding to start seeding those funds.
On the fleet replacement, just a question on that.
Yeah.
We're still not on the lease program, right? We're still purchasing it.
For fire apparatus, we're purchasing.
We're purchasing, okay.
Mhm. Any other questions?
I'm very impressed in how well you all have worked to make this as close as it is to being balanced at this point. It's tough job you do. Thank you.
Staff did it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. It is a lot of effort, and like I said earlier, there's a big difference between, reading the budget, looking at it, and then operating under it, so I mean,
There is.
that's where the rubber's gonna meet the road, so to speak, and, really be a lot of, effort to do that, but I know we appreciate it, and whether they know it or not, the citizens of Trinidad appreciate it as well. And I can say that because I am a citizen of Trinidad, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That'd be a problem if I wasn't.
That concludes the memo, but Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know if you wanna invite staff, anyone from staff to come forward, if they have any final comments.
I think if particularly if anybody in staff wants to share something, I think they should certainly come forward. I do think, I'm still interested in hearing, concerns about implementing it. But obviously, it's something that we have to do, and there is a big difference between, speaking about concerns and then having some idea as to how to handle it, or just lamenting over the need to do it. So I mean, it's very nuanced, obviously, but if anyone does have concerns, discussions, I think it's a good opportunity to do that.
Not all at once now.
And not all at once.
I think I put him to sleep reading the memo.
I did wonder if, Mr. Just, would you mind coming up? Yes, I would mind.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I hesitate to even ask this, it's almost like the knock on wood, but the new equipment that has been purchased for the landfill, how is that working out, and any concerns, problems?
Are you talking new used equipment?
Yes, the
Like
new
the-
used equipment.
It's working out great. Buck is utilizing the dozer to push cover material. I was just out there last week. It's running good. We had a slight issue with the off-road truck, and we figured out it was a sensor, and it's back up and running. The Komatsu loader, that was actually purchased on a yearly, I think we have a 5-year program where we're paying so much every year. We're into our 3rd year now, so that couple of years we'll own that piece of equipment. We use it up on the face to push, he pushes material to the compactor. And as you know, you guys approved the rebuild and the refurbish on the compactor, and it's running great. So, knock on wood, everything's running good out there.
Right. And I mean, overall, those purchases have actually replaced contracts where we were purchasing people to do that for us, right? So I mean,
That's correct. We
in
used to
effect,
hire local contractors to push dirt for us. So over the next few years, we'll actually have that dozer paid for.
in effect, I mean, that is a net savings given enough time.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
They put a whole lot of money into it. I think we paid, was it
63,000.
63,000, thank you.
I
So
was
we were
gonna say-
averaging 25,000 a year, so 3 years we'll have it paid for.
Okay,
Less than even.
I
It's good
was
questions.
curious about that as we were going through.
Yeah, no, it's working well.
Question on another side of that. So, with the 0.5% increase that we did on did we see any impact on that towards the budget for expenses or revenue coming in when we did the small impact on the landfill fees?
I'm sorry, Councilman Trujillo, you said 25%
No,
increase?
0.5, well, it's 0.5, because we went 3.4, but then we went 0.5, because it was 10.50 is what we went up to the price. Did we
That's
see
correct.
an
It was
impact?
actually 3%,
Yeah.
which 3% of $10 was 30 cents.
There you go.
And then we rounded to the
There was
nearest.
some rounding involved.
Yes.
There was some rounding. I was questioned about my mathematical.
It was exactly according to the verbiage, so it was right.
Yeah.
Per the ordinance.
Yep.
Correct.
So, but have we seen an impact on that at all, or is it done in change, or does that need to be revisited to see if we need to?
You know, well, obviously, we're gonna get another 3% this year, the way it's written in. So every year we get 3%, and that's to do the closure of the landfill, hopefully way down the road, or, you know. I've talked to Tara about, we need to be proactive and purchase a piece of property. So when this landfill is at its capacity, at least we have the groundwork in place. Because we're gonna be under complete new guidelines with the CDPHE. We're gonna probably have to have a liner this time. We were grandfathered in before without that, but to answer your question, no, it looks like we're still not where the revenues are offsetting the cost, but we're getting closer, you know?
Maybe we can have a conversation on that later. Would that be all right?
Yeah, I wrote a note to provide an update with actual numbers next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nothing? I guess we're done then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Any further questions for any other?
You wanna call on anyone else?
Bless. She's got a lottery over here.
Just start picking them at random.
Just start picking them out.
I know, yeah. Just come on up.
I don't, I mean, I don't think we need to. I would offer the invitation to anyone else that wants to, but I mean, this would be a good time, but it doesn't seem that's necessary, so.
Cool. Thank you. This is a good start.
Which one?
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, with that, I guess, that will, conclude this work session. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it.